the fate of a night. This video will leave you breathless. What starts as a simple night at a bar turns into a whirlwind of passion, secrets, and shocking revelations. You won't believe where this story leads. From steamy encounters to heart-stopping twists, this is one of the most intense stories you'll see on Silent Confessions. But be warned, this video is full of unexpected surprises. Just when you think you know where it's going, everything changes. Stay until the end. You won't regret it. Hit play now. It was a night like any other, one of those where the city seemed wrapped in a subtle veil of electricity. The bar hummed with soft chatter, the clinking of glasses blending with the mellow background music. The air carried the scent of whiskey, citrus, and distant laughter, a perfect blend of sophistication and indulgence. Andrea sat at the counter, fingers curled around a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid swirling under the dim light. He exhaled slowly, his mind drifting aimlessly, only to be jolted back into the present as the door opened with a gust of cool night air. Then she walked in, Elena. She wasn't just another woman stepping into the bar, she was a force. The sleek black dress clung to her body, accentuating every perfect curve, while the delicate sway of her hips exuded confidence. Her loose waves cascaded over her shoulders, catching the light as she moved, and her deep red lips curled into the kind of smirk that made hearts skip a beat. The atmosphere shifted. Eyes followed her, but hers locked onto Andrea's almost instantly. Their eyes met, a suspended moment, an unspoken challenge. Then, with an effortless grace, she moved towards the bar. The click of her heels against the wooden floor was a slow, deliberate rhythm, matching the cadence of Andrea's accelerating heartbeat. She ordered a gin and tonic, her voice smooth as silk, her fingers running lightly along the rim of her glass before she turned to face him fully. "You look like someone who enjoys a good conversation," she mused, her voice laced with intrigue. Andrea lifted his drink, smirking as he took a sip. "And you look like someone who knows how to make one unforgettable." The night had just begun, but the anticipation between them was already crackling, setting the stage for something neither of them could resist. Conversation flowed easily, words laced with flirtation, glances charged with unspoken desires. The air between them grew thick with tension, the kind that made fingertips tremble against the rim of a glass, that made breaths hitch when their knees brushed under the counter. Each laugh carried an unspoken invitation. Each sip of their drinks was a slow, deliberate act, drawing them closer in a game neither wanted to end. Andrea leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a husky murmur. "I have a feeling the night is just getting started." Elena met his gaze, her lips curling into a mischievous smirk. "Then let's not waste it." The tension snapped like an overdrawn bowstring. When Andrea suggested continuing the night at his place, she responded with a teasing glance, a flick of her hair, and a nod that held promises unspoken. In the taxi, the charged silence between them spoke louder than words. Their bodies edged closer, his knee pressing against hers, her hand casually resting on her thigh, fingers lightly grazing the hem of her dress. The city lights flickered past the window, casting golden reflections over their faces, adding to the growing intensity between them. Andrea turned slightly, his fingertips brushing the inside of her wrist, feeling her pulse quicken beneath his touch. She exhaled slowly, turning toward him, her breath warm against his skin. "I hope you're ready for this," she whispered, her voice sultry and challenging. Andrea smirked, his fingers trailing up her arm in a slow, tantalizing path. "More than you know." The anticipation was unbearable, a spark waiting to erupt into flames. A night of raw, consuming passion. The moment they stepped into Andrea's apartment, the restraint shattered. He pulled off her coat, inhaling her intoxicating scent, his fingers grazing the delicate skin of her shoulders. She tilted her head up, lips parted. An invitation. That was all it took for the fire to erupt. His hands gripped her with urgency, pinning her against the door as his lips crashed against hers. Their tongues tangled, exploring, tasting, devouring. The heat between them was instant and searing, a force neither could resist. His hands roamed her body, fingertips tracing the soft curve of her waist before sliding lower, gripping her firmly as he pulled her closer. A moan escaped her lips as he pressed against her, the intensity of his desire evident. They barely made it to the living room, a trail of discarded clothing marking their path. Andrea lifted her effortlessly, his hands roaming, claiming, worshipping. He carried her with ease, their mouths never breaking contact, his lips capturing every gasp, every whimper. The feel of his skin against hers sent waves of pleasure down her spine. By the time they reached the bedroom, the cool sheets did nothing to temper the heat between them. His lips explored her neck, her collarbone, descending with agonizing slowness, leaving a trail of fire wherever they touched. His teeth grazed her skin, followed by the soothing caress of his tongue. She arched beneath him, her body surrendering completely to his touch. His fingers traced the curve of her thigh before sliding between her legs, teasing, tormenting, bringing her to the edge only to pull away, a wicked smirk playing on his lips. "Not yet," he murmured, his voice husky with need. She whimpered in frustration, her nails digging into his back, urging him to take her fully. He relished every moment, every reaction, every sound she made. The way her body responded to his touch was intoxicating, an addiction he never wanted to break. When he finally entered her, the world around them disappeared. Their bodies moved in perfect, desperate rhythm, matching each other's urgency. The tension built higher and higher until it shattered in waves of pleasure, leaving them breathless and tangled in each other's arms. But the night was far from over. As they lay there, catching their breath, his fingers lazily traced patterns on her skin. She turned to him, her eyes dark with renewed desire, her lips curving into a knowing smile. "Again," she whispered, and he was more than willing to oblige. The night stretched on, their bodies coming together again and again, each time more intense, more consuming, more desperate. Every kiss, every touch, every thrust was a promise, an unspoken vow that neither wanted to break. He pulled off her coat, inhaling her intoxicating scent. She tilted her head up, lips parted. An invitation. That was all it took for the fire to erupt. His hands gripped her with urgency, pinning her against the door as his lips crashed against hers. Their tongues tangled, exploring, tasting, devouring. They barely made it to the living room, a trail of discarded clothing marking their path. Andrea lifted her effortlessly, his hands roaming, claiming, worshipping. By the time they reached the bedroom, the cool sheets did nothing to temper the heat between them. His lips explored her neck, her collarbone descending with agonizing slowness, leaving a trail of fire wherever they touched. Her moans filled the room, their bodies moving in perfect, desperate rhythm. He took his time, savoring every inch of her, dragging her to the edge before pulling her back, only to send her spiraling again. Every kiss, every touch, every thrust was a promise, an unspoken vow that neither wanted to break. Sunlight filtered through the curtains when Elena stirred, expecting the usual awkward morning-after routine. Instead, she found Andrea standing by the bed, a tray in his hands, a warm, teasing smile on his lips. "Good morning, gorgeous," he murmured, placing the breakfast beside her. She propped herself up, eyeing him curiously. No rush, no awkward goodbyes, just warmth, comfort, and the lingering embers of the night before. She stretched languidly under the sheets, her body still tingling from the passion they had shared only hours ago. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the traces of his cologne, an intoxicating reminder of their night together. He slid back into bed, tracing slow circles on her bare skin. They talked, truly talked, about their lives, their secrets, their hidden desires. Laughter spilled between lazy kisses, fingers tracing the outlines of newly familiar territory. His touch was slow, unhurried, as if memorizing every inch of her body, relishing the sensation of her warmth against him. Then, words dissolved into moans. The sheets tangled around them again, limbs entwining, bodies moving in sync, surrendering to yet another wave of unrelenting pleasure. His lips found the sensitive spots he had discovered during the night, his hands guiding her with expert precision. She arched against him, nails digging into his skin, as he took his time exploring her all over again. Their rhythm built steadily, pleasure coiling deep inside them until it spilled over in gasps and cries of release. The morning stretched lazily into the afternoon, the outside world forgotten as they indulged in each other. They lay tangled together, speaking in hushed tones between heated kisses, teasing touches leading to yet another blissful peak. Every moment with him felt more intense, more intoxicating. The way he looked at her, the way he held her afterward, left her breathless in more ways than one. Andrea brushed a lock of hair from her face, his thumb lingering against her cheek. "I could get used to mornings like this," he murmured. Elena smirked, pressing her lips against his jawline. "Then let's not let this be the last." And just like that, the embers of the night before reignited into something neither of them wanted to let go. Instead, she found Andrea standing by the bed, a tray in his hands, a warm, teasing smile on his lips. That night wasn't just a fleeting encounter. It was the beginning of something insatiable. They met again and again, each time more reckless, more hungry for each other. Hotel rooms, hidden corners of the city, stolen afternoons spent tangled in passion and secrecy. The desire between them was relentless, burning hotter with each forbidden touch, each whispered name in the dark. Their stolen hours were filled with an urgency that left them breathless, limbs tangled, bodies slick with sweat and satisfaction. Andrea started to believe it could be something more, that the intensity, the heat, the laughter could turn into something real. Every time he traced his fingers over her bare skin, every time she sighed his name with that deliciously sinful voice, he convinced himself it was more than just a game. He studied the way her eyes darkened with lust, the way her body melted under his touch, the way she held on to him long after their passion had peaked. He memorized her scent, the taste of her, the sound of her pleasure echoing in the silence. Andrea started to believe it could be something more, that the intensity, the heat, the laughter could turn into something real. But Elena was always elusive, always slipping away before morning fully took hold. Andrea was browsing in a mall, absently running his fingers over a row of shirts when his eyes landed on her. Elena? But she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, his hand resting at the small of her back. Two children ran toward her, their voices bright and carefree as they called, "Mama!" Andrea's chest constricted, a sharp, brutal punch to the gut. His pulse pounded in his ears as he watched, frozen, the scene unfolding before him. Elena's laughter, soft and genuine, sent a pang of something raw through his chest. She looked happy, content, a world away from the woman who had writhed beneath him in the dim glow of a hotel room. Memories crashed over him, her lips on his skin, her moans tangled in the night, the way she would cling to him in the darkness, breathless and undone. Every moment he had spent with her felt like a cruel joke now, an illusion shattered with just one word, "Mama." Betrayal burned through him, searing and relentless. It wasn't just the lie, it was the hope. The foolish, aching hope that what they had could have been real. That maybe, just maybe, he had meant something to her beyond stolen nights and whispered confessions. He clenched his fists, his nails biting into his palms. His stomach churned as he watched her husband place a gentle kiss on her temple, his arm slipping protectively around her waist. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. She belonged to someone else. She always had. Andrea swallowed hard, the bitter taste of realization settling on his tongue. He wanted to scream, to confront her, to demand answers. But what good would it do? The truth was glaringly obvious now. Without waiting for her to notice him, he turned on his heel and walked away. The artificial lights of the mall felt cold, sterile, a harsh contrast to the warmth he had once thought existed between them. Each step felt heavier, as if he were dragging the weight of their entire affair behind him. Elena had never been his, and now she never would be. Thank you for watching this gripping and emotional journey on Silent Confessions. If this story kept you on edge, left you breathless, or made you feel something deep inside, don't forget to like this video and share it with others who love raw, passionate storytelling. Want more? Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss another intense, unforgettable story. Let's talk. What would you have done in Andrea's place? Have you ever experienced a love that was never truly yours? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. This was just one story, but trust me, there's so much more coming. Stay tuned for the next Silent Confession, because some stories are too powerful to remain unspoken.